France, England, and Spain, Germany was comprised of small fiefdoms that made the Holy Roman Empire. The emperor was chosen by 7 regional electors, including 3 archbishops. Though politically fragmented, the German people were passionate about cultural nationalism and began to resent the influence from the church on the other side of the Alps. In 1517, a professor from the University of Wittenberg, located in Saxony, initiated a debate against church practices. The professor's name was Martin Luther. Known as the 95 Thesis, the parchment was nailed to the door of the local church. Luther was excommunicated by Leo X. Luther responded by publishing pamphlets rejecting the spiritual necessity of obedience to the church. Protecting Luther from charges of heresy, Elector Frederick of Saxony smuggled the professor to his castle at Wartburg. Luther published and transmitted his opinions via the new invention of the printing press. He believed the printing press was a gift from God. At this same time, Huldrych Zwingli broke the dietary restriction on Lent holiday. In this city square, Zwingli presided over a meal of red meat. Public disobedience was becoming common. Local magistrates, sensing the mood of the people, recognized their demand. Noticing that the practice of infant baptizing was not mentioned in Scripture, Conrad Grebel began rebaptizing adults. They were called Anabaptists, or rebaptizers. Some of the Germans began as social revolts. The serfs rose up against their lords. The Peasant Rebellion was short-lived, though, and was squashed in 1525. Now called Lutheranism, once the movement became separated from social radicalism, reform became respectable. Albrecht of Hohenzollern, Philip of Hesse, and Otto Henry became the first of the German rulers to convert. Christian III made Denmark a Lutheran state, as did Gustav Vasa, King of Sweden. Henry VIII parted from Rome and founded the Church of England. The Peace of Augsburg in 1555 sought to clarify the religious differences in Germany. The summarization of the meeting was, whoever your ruler was, that was your religion. The French were not so tolerant from those parting from the Catholic Church. Many French citizens sought refuge in Switzerland. Doubling its population, Geneva became a city of theological progression. Here, John Calvin and his peers were forging a new religion from Lutheranism. The theological amendments became known as Calvinism. Unlike Lutheranism, Calvinism did not dissuade from social reformations. Organized and trained in Geneva, the French Calvinists defied the crown. The minority was known as Huguenots. The French Wars of Religion began in 1562. It is estimated that 3 million French citizens perished in civil wars marked by massacres and mob violence. However, Calvinism gained aristocratic support. Henry IV, a Calvinist from the House of Bourbon, became successor as King of France in 1572. Called Good King Henry, he initiated a phase of religious toleration in France by comprising a law called the Edict of Nantes. Henry IV was later assassinated by a religious zealot. Ruled by Spain, conflict in the Netherlands began to grow when Charles V abdicated the throne to his son Philip. Philip's new policy of centralization went against complex tradition in the Netherlands. The Dutch revolted in 1566. A Spanish army commanded by the Duke of Alva was sent to quell the rebellion. The brutality used by Alva repulsed both Catholic and Protestant. Calvinism became a creed of resistance and was adopted by William of Orange, leader of the Dutch Revolt. The House of Orange was to struggle for independence from Spain for another 80 years. Henry VIII's daughter, Mary Tudor, was Catholic. Along with her marriage to Philip of Spain, she persecuted hundreds of Protestants by burning them at the stake in her reign as Queen of England. In Scotland, the Calvinist John Knox led a rebellion after returning from Geneva. The Scottish people revolted from their Catholic ruler and raised the reigning prince, James I, as a Calvinist. When Mary Tudor died in 1558, she was succeeded as Queen of England by her younger half-sister, Elizabeth I. Although she restored Protestantism to England, Elizabeth was still considered too conservative by the growing Puritan culture in England. Portugal, Spain, and Italy were the only bastions of Catholicism that were untouched by the Protestant movement. With the exception of the Bavarians, who remained strongly Catholic, over 3/4 of the German people had converted to Protestantism. The Church responded by calling the Council of Trent in 1545. In 25 separate sessions, Catholic doctrine was clarified, and seminaries were established for the education and training of clergy. The unifying measures the Church had taken were the start of the Counter-Reformation. At this time, the Habsburgs became the most powerful dynasty in Europe. The Habsburgs were staunchly Catholic. In 1534, Ignatius Loyola founded the Jesuits. The members were missionaries for the Church and Catholic activists for the social elites. William Lenormand was the Jesuit confessor for Ferdinand II, who was soon to become the Holy Roman Emperor during the 30 Years' War. The 30 Years' War began in Bohemia when their people revolted against the Catholic ruler and was replaced by Elector Frederick V, a Calvinist. An army led by Maximilian of Bavaria, called the Catholic League, met the rebel position on the hills just outside of Prague. In November of 1620, the undisciplined rebel army was beaten and scattered in the Battle of White Mountain. Emperor Ferdinand sought to capitalize on this success by issuing the Edict of Restitution, a law demanding that all Catholic lands be restored since the Reformation. The edict backfired. Many neutral parties in Germany thought the law was too extreme. The Protestants united under Gustavus Adolphus, the King of Sweden, who was deploying his army from the Baltic. The Battle of Breitenfeld was fought outside of Leipzig in September of 1631. The left side of the Protestant army had retreated early from the field of battle. The Imperialists sought to exploit this advantage by attacking their left flank. This gave Gustavus and the right wing of his cavalry the chance to capture the enemy cannon. The Protestants used the captured cannon against the enemy, decimating the Imperial infantry. The Battle of Breitenfeld was the first major military success for the Protestants. Emperor Ferdinand could no longer consider the reformers as merely rebels. In Britain, the devoutly Catholic Irish revolted against the English colonialists. The Irish Revolt antagonized already strained relations between the Puritans and King Charles I. The Battle of Edge Hill took place in October of 1642. It was the first battle of the English Civil Wars. The conclusion of the fighting was King Charles I, charged with treason, was beheaded. The Puritans under Oliver Cromwell took power in England. The Peace of Westphalia was agreed in 1648. This ended the 30 Years' War on the continent, but did not end hostilities. Charles I's posterity returned to the English throne after Cromwell died, but was again deposed for their Catholicism. Louis XIV revoked the Edict of Nantes in 1685. This ended nearly a century of religious toleration in France, and again Protestants were persecuted and exiled.